Hey guys, how's it going? Robert Warshak here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about all of the cards, well, the most important cards leaving us from the Kobolds expansion. Like we did in our two previous videos with Knights of the Frozen Throne and Journey to Ungoro. We kind of cover the most important cards and what are the, the most prominent cards found in the current meta today. We go through each class, we take a look, we explain the card, if a card sticks out to us in the deck that it fits into, and we've seen a lot of cards that are leaving us that I didn't actually know were leaving us until we've taken a closer look, and then all of the decks that those correlate to. And I am really excited, like I've mentioned before, about this rotation, what's going to happen, and the meta that's going to come out afterwards. So with that, let's head into the Druid. Jasper Spellstone is the first card that sticks out of mind. The Druid Spellstone is one of the most powerful early game, even late game utilities it has, because it upgrades over time. The ability to spend one mana and deal 6 damage is insane, right? The catch to it is that we have to upgrade it and gain 3 armor at a time, but as we know, Druid actually gains more armor than Warrior. It has an easier Druid armor gain is absolutely insane. I don't know why they decided to give Druid so much armor gain in comparison to Warrior, which is what should have the armor gain. But as we know, Spellstone is a really powerful card in the Druid class. From there, Branching Paths. This is a huge one. So the ability to choose between draw, +1 attack, and armor. This fits. Like, I love cards like this. So it's not that I think Branching Path is OP, and I'm actually kind of sad to see it go, because you can use this in the early game, you can use this in the mid game, late game, depending on the situation that you're in, you can use it for all kinds of different things. So like cards like this, I absolutely love. So Branching Path leaving us is a big deal. It fits, into, I want to say, almost every Druid deck. It fits into Togwaggle, it fits into Token, it fits into OTK, it fits into Big Druid. I mean, it fits into even Mechathune. I mean, the card's insane. So rip Branching Paths. Ironwood Golem found its way in quite a few decks because of the card Oaken Summons. The ability to basically summon this guy for free, gain 6 armor is insane. There's Oaken Summons, rip Oaken Summons. So these two peas in a pod right here. Twig of the World Tree. Back when Druid was really popular in Malagos and Togwaggle, Druid were dominating ladder. Twig of the World Tree enabled combos much sooner than what normally would be available to the Druid, even with the amount of ramp that they had. It's just one of those extra cards that, why not? Let's just give Druid a weapon that gives them 10 more mana. So Twig leaving at the moment isn't quite as big of a deal because Druid is, again, we covered it in the last video, but just not as popular anymore. I still think Tog Druid is a really solid deck, and we climbed from rank 5 to rank 1 with it last season with like a 60% win rate. So I think Tog Druid is still really good, does well against most of the decks in the meta, but we don't see a ton of it. Twig of the World Tree is definitely a card you'd play in that deck, so solid card. Sad to see it leave. The rest aren't that important. Hunter, Candle Shot, pretty big deal. This is one of those cards that we hated. Hunter's Mark, when it cost 1 mana with a Candle Shot, just felt terrible. Now Hunter's Mark costs 2, so it does see a little bit less play, but Candle Shot is still a really good weapon. So for those of you who play Hunter, rip Candle Shot. For those of you who don't play Hunter, I'm sure you're glad to see that go. Wandering Monster, again, a really good secret. Venom Snake Trap, I believe it was. In the previous video we covered is leaving. Wandering Monster is leaving. Those are 2 really good secrets that are heading out. Flanking Shot. This is a big one. This card is really good. A staple in almost any hunter deck, whether you're budget, whether you're mid-range, whether you're hybrid, whether you're spell hunter, whether you're even cube hunter. I mean, this is just a staple card in that deck, and it's a common, so it was available to a lot of players for very cheap. So Flanking Shot leaving is quite a big deal. Spellstone. Ooh, daddy. So all of the Spellstones are leaving, obviously, with the Kobold set rotating out and going into Wild. So Spellstone for Hunter, I mean, this is one of those power cards that, when it costs 5 mana, Hunter was dominant on ladder, absolutely dominant, and it got bumped to 6. We see a little bit less Hunter, but it's still a very powerful card, no doubt. So this card leaving. Hunter, I'm not sure what Hunter's going to have. Cube Hunter's getting wrecked. Spell Hunter's getting wrecked. They're losing secrets. They're losing Candle Shots. They're losing Spellstones. So it'll be interesting to see where Hunter lands if it's on its feet after this next rotation. Seeping Oozing, didn't see it to my side. Again, another Spell Hunter card. Or not a Spell Hunter card, but a no minion hunter, which is also known as Spell Hunter. Leaving Rock Delar. Crushing Walls, and Cathena Winterwisp. So Cathena, as we know, Cube Hunter, or Death Rattle Hunter, one, in my opinion, one of the best decks out right now. So with this leaving, again, Hunter, like I mentioned, and Priest getting trashed. Like there's so many core cards of those decks that are just leaving and going to Wild, and leaving what, there's nothing left of that deck anymore. So it's gonna be interesting to see where Hunter and Priest land. I mean, we're gonna see the old style Priest where it's mainly control, entering fatigue, and then they just literally win just because they have so much board clear and so much control. Or is it gonna be, you know, like we've seen with the whole OTK, you know, dealing 15, 20, 25 damage in a single turn? And as we know, Rockdalar and Crushing Walls, to my side, Crushing Walls and Rockdalar all kind of fit in like the Spell Hunter or no minion Hunter package. Mage, I don't think Mage is losing too much. Arcane is a good control card. Explosive Runes is a really good Mage secret, probably one of the most popular. When people think of like when Mage runs secrets, it's Counterspell and Explosive Runes. Those are the two that like just instantly go to. So Explosive Runes leaving, that's 50% of the runes that you'd think about. Raven, like I said, in control, not that big of a deal though. I guess we could mention the Manipulator. I mean, this is for the non-quest OTK Mage, but with Molten Reflections leaving, with Sim leaving, I mean, I don't think OTK Mage is really going to be a thing anymore. Dragon's Fury. Ooh, this is a big one. So this is a lot of the mid-game removal for the Mage. Granted, they still have Blizzard and Flame Strike. We are losing Blizzard and Dragon's Fury. I know Blizzard isn't here, but it was covered in a previous video. So Dragon's Fury and Meteor heading out. So that's like 50% of the control Mage CC cards if they did play those two. So pretty big deal. Alunith, when Tempo Mage was a thing, and Murloc Mage was pretty prominent, Alunith was one of the core cards to keep the decks obtaining, you know, value and being able to, you know, they normally dumped their hand and they could just keep fueling the fire with cards that allow you to draw 3 cards at the end of the turn, right? So this was super sick. So with this leaving, you know, the more aggressive style Mage decks may not see as much play anymore. Not that they see a lot of play now, but it's mainly dependent on like the secrets and how much early game Mage has. If Mage has a lot of early game, you know, damaging abilities, Alunith would see a lot of play because, you know, they would include that and play Tempo Mage, but really not so much anymore with the Mana Worm nerf. Dragon Caller, not a lot of people play her, but she was really popular for like a month or two when Control Mage was pretty hot. Paladin, I don't really see anything on this page. I mean, Potion of Heroism is played in like, you know, OTK Paladin just for the draw, but it's not, I wouldn't really classify that as a really popular card. Unidentified Maul, this is a banger. So if this lends, you know, plus attack, Divine Shield, or, you know, summon 2 Silver Hands, it's pretty good. If it's taunt, it sucks. So most of the time this card is really good, found in most odd Paladin builds. So with that leaving, pretty prominent and pretty good for us. Call to Arms, really popular cycle mechanic. Before it was used more aggressively when it costs 4 mana, but now that it costs 5 mana, it started seeing play more in the OTK decks just to pull cards out of the deck, because it does recruit 3 minions, which is basically like drawing 3 cards, and if it hits Loot Hoarders, that's even more draw. So Call to Arms leaving is definitely going to hurt the cycle of those OTK Paladins, but we're losing the Death Knight. So like they have Shirvala and Holy Wrath, but like they're losing Call to Arms too. So how much cycle could a Paladin have now when it's losing all of these utilities cards? Level Up doesn't really see a lot of play at all anymore. I literally have played 0 even Paladins, like none. So I can't even like say how good or bad this card is anymore, but it's still, you know, it was very popular. Valinar, this is one of my favorite cards that came from the Paladin set. The ability to basically go infinite, unless your opponent has, you know, some sort of like polymorph or hex or a silence. But a lot of the times, you know, if you can get this to stick on a couple minions, the value that it brings is insane. And then Linesis Unsar, again, didn't really see a ton of play. It's sometimes played in like OTK Paladin or Control Paladin, or maybe even a buff Paladin, but those weren't really popular. So not really that big of a hit there. Priest. So like we mentioned, Priest is taking huge hits. Gargoyle, boom, gone. No more double coin into Cloning Gallery on turn 7. Twilight Alkalite, this is found in any sort of dragon build or the combo dragon priest that runs, you know, Anduin with the Mind Blast, totally gone. It's also a combo with the Shadow Priest. You know, you Twilight Alkalite, you Shadow Priest, and you take like maybe a Void Daddy or a Lich King or something of that nature. A really powerful card. So that combo is now gone. Twilight's Call. This is one of those cards that allowed Mecha'thun to draw so much because they would bring back like Blood Mage, or they'd bring back Loot Hoarders, or the other, you know, I believe it's like a 2-mana 2/1 Death Rattle. You know, when it dies, draw a Death Rattle. So this was just a huge, basically, draw mechanic for the priest. So with that leaving, pretty big deal. Duskbreaker, whoo, this is the early to mid game priest field removal. As we know, they have like Mass Hysteria now, which is on turn 5. Psychic Scream is actually leaving, so they only have the Mass Hysteria. Duskbreaker's gone, Scream is gone, so priest took heavy hits. Spellstone gone, Psychic Scream gone, so priest, woo, 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 woo. I mean, Spellstone is like the key. I wouldn't say the key, but it's like, you know, one of these really good cards when, you know, they summon back Malygos, Velen, Lich King, Grizzlies. You know, the Wall Priest has, I don't remember the name of him. He's a, you know, he has 2 attack and 12 or 14 HP with Divine Shield. The card's sick. So Spellstone leaving, pretty big deal. Rogue, Kingsbane, Shiny Finder. Shiny Finder is actually a big deal because of Malygos Rogue, which has actually gotten really popular recently. Evasion is really good because it's basically like a shittier ice block, but it's still pretty solid. It allows you to basically live a turn. Granted, it was only like a 1-of in the Malygos Rogue. It still allowed that extra turn, which a lot of the times did give you the lethal out you're looking for. Shadow Dancer allowed for a lot of combos. Wasn't that popular, but still very good. Minstrel, this is huge. So we covered in the previous video, Vile Spine Slayer's leaving, Minstrel's leaving. This is a huge draw mechanic for the Rogue, whether it be, you know, Miracle Rogue, whether it be the Malygos Rogue. I mean, it was just Tempo Rogue, Shark Rogue. I mean, this card is just so good, and it's going to be a problem for Rogue. I mean, they have Sprint, but Elven Minstrel was just so good. Strider, big deal. I mean, this is one of the best 4-mana cards that Rogue had at the time. You know, shuffle. Like, granted, it's a very delayed value, but it's still really powerful. Illusionist, this was the entirety of the Malygos Rogue combo. So without the Illusionist, the ability to pop this Death Rattle, pull out Malygos, and be able to do the damage needed, you know, with your, whether it be, you know, Sinister Strikes, Evis, and the flowers. I don't remember the flower's name. You know, it breaks into 2 petals, so rip Malygos Rogue, right? Oh my goodness, this meta is gonna be crazy when it moves up. Like, no one's gonna know anything. Unstable Evolution, not that crazy. Healing Rain is pretty good, but doesn't, like, Shaman's really not that popular right now at all. Ever since Shudder, you know, got nerfed, nobody's playing Shaman. There's like this new Shudder that runs like elementals, and it kind of goes for like, you know, bursting kind of stuff, but it's nowhere near as good. Grumble's taking a hit, but like we said, without Shudder, Grumble doesn't really matter. And then the Spellstone for Shaman really never saw play unless you were playing big Shaman. For Warlock, we got Dark Pact, which is kind of a big deal. It was a pretty good sacrificial card for whether you're killing Void Daddies, whether you're killing the possessed lackeys, which we're losing as well. Like Warlock, oh my god, look at these hits. Dark Pact, Librarian, Homunculus, Hooked Reaver for even Warlock, Spellstone, which is a great healing card for Warlocks. 4 mana, deal 7 damage, heal for 7's insane. Skull for the Q block, Possessed Lackey for the Q block to pull out Void Lords and or Doom Guards. Rin, you know, being able to throw in a card that allows you to kind of win against control if this gets off and you're able to pull off the seals. And then Void Lord. So Warlock, holy moly. So I mentioned Hunter and Priest took the biggest hits, but Warlock, wow, this is a big deal. This is every Warlock deck just got nutted. Every single Warlock deck got nutted. Even Lock got nutted, Control Lock got nutted, Cube Lock got nutted. All the nuts are gone. Oh my goodness, I didn't even, like, I wrote down Hunter and Priest to talk about, but I guess I skipped over Warlock. But as we can see, big deal for Warlock. Looking at Warrior, Dry Whisker, not that big of a deal, not really huge. Reckless Fury, though, this is a really good removal tool. I mean, when the odd warrior, the able to hero power Reckless Fury, basically pay 5 mana, clear board. I mean, that was pretty good. So now we just, again, down to the singular Brawl. And then besides that, that's it. Like, Warrior had one good card. The rest are kind of just Spellstone really never saw play. Woe Cleaver was kind of a meme card. Yip was cool, but you couldn't even play him in Odd Warrior. If Yip was Odd Warrior material, Odd Warrior would be so sick. But Yip is even, so that doesn't work. And then Unidentified Shield was more of like a meme than anything. Looking at the neutral cards, Dire Maul. It's a really popular card in the aggro builds. Pretty popular card in the Beast Hunter or the Hybrid Hunter or the I always forget it. I always forget Master's Call. There you go. So big deal for most aggro decks. That's pretty good. Plated Beetle was seen in some, Q blocks, along with the, I believe, Priest decks just to gain some armor, but nothing too crazy there. Definitely Dire Maul stands out more than anything. And then scrolling through, Void Ripper, it was actually seen a lot in Odd Paladin and a lot in Odd Rogue, just to kind of, when people would use Spreading Plague, they could flip it and then make easier trades. But it actually, as the popularity of Druid went down, Void Ripper went down as well. But it's still a pretty good card. Zola, this is a big deal. Zola allowed the Quest Rogue to go infinite. Granted, there's no Quest Rogue anymore, but Zola was still one of those cards that allowed you to copy a card that you normally, let's say another legendary that you can only run one of. It allowed you to make, play two of them. And also, depending on the situation, you could pick, if you needed more weapon removal, you needed more taunts, you needed more heals. This was one of those cards that allowed you to kind of like universally pick. Very powerful. Shroom Brewer, this is a solid heal. Most of the time, it's only played in Warlock, but it's still a pretty good card at that. The dankness, what will we do without the dankness? I'm just kidding, it's not that powerful, but it's still super fun. Arcane Tyrant, mostly found in Druid and Big Mage. The ability to tempo out this guy for basically 0 mana, 4/4, plus he's an elemental is really good. Thank God this card is fucking gone. I hate this card. Carnivorous Cube, I will catch you on the flip side, my dude. This is found in so many decks. This card should have been nerfed after like the first 6 months. It should have either lesser stats or only summon one copy of a minion. But regardless, thank God Carnivorous Cube is gone. Death Rattle Hunter, Death Rattle Rogue, Cube Warlock, all that shit. It's gone. Fungal Mancer, I mean, it's one of those cards very similar to Defender of Argus, where it's like if they play, they play a minion, buff the 2 minions, they hit you in the face. It kind of turns into Curvestone with this guy, and he's really, really powerful. I don't really have a problem with this card at all. I mean, it's just good in general. But a lot of it there needs to be a balance in between control and aggressive style decks. If control is too good, you know what I mean? The whole meta is just completely control decks. If aggro is too good, control doesn't shine and there's only aggro decks. So this guy allowed the, more aggressive style decks to have that kind of burst that they needed to make it through, whether it be some damage, some burst damage, or to make it through minions. I really didn't see a problem with Fungal Mancer. He will probably be missed. I didn't play him a ton, but he's still, he's not a problem card. Corridor Creeper, remember when this card used to be a 5/5 chat? That was a problem card. Now he's no big deal. He's played an Odd Paladin. It's not too crazy when they play him. Granted, if they have like 2 of them and they play both of them on turn 4 into a Fungal Mancer, yeah, that sucks. But imagine when this guy was a 5/5. Like, you out of your mind. You out of your mind. Spiteful Summoner, gone. Spiteful Priest, Spiteful Druid, gone. Not that it's really popular, but still worth mentioning. Grand Archivist was found again in the Spiteful decks. Not really that big of a deal. King Togwaggle, I'm actually going to be pretty sad to see this guy go. Togwaggle Druid was just a fun deck. I don't know why I love Togwaggle Druid so much. When it was popular, and the King Togwaggle Malagos Druid, I didn't play that shit. But then after Druid got completely nutted, and they nerfed Wild Growth, they nerfed Nourish, and all that good stuff, and nobody played Druid, I played Togwaggle Druid, and that shit was fun. Like, it was just a good, fun, balanced deck. It wasn't absolutely insane. It was fair, and you didn't ramp out of your mind into a Togwaggle win, when you shouldn't have. It was a fair game, and it was fun. So, Togwaggle, sorry to see you go. Martin the Fox, I don't give a shit about. A Violet Worm, nah. Dragon Hatcher and Oakheart, these kind of like 2 peas in a pod. You play Oakheart, you play Dragon Catcher, because it pulls it out, and then it summons a Sleepy Dragon. So these 3 cards kind of all go together, and they were found in the Taunt Druid. Taunt Druid really isn't that popular anymore, given the reason that combo decks are a thing, and combo decks destroy control decks. So granted, you know, the Druid plays all these taunt cards, combo decks like, yo, I play Mechathune, your guys are just, I just win the game regardless of how much health or armor you have. So that's why I think Taunt Druid isn't seeing a ton of play right now. I know I mentioned in my first video that like even Shaman and Taunt Druid aren't seeing a lot of play, which is weird, but I guess Taunt Druid, the more I thought about it, you know, the 4 Horsemen deck and, you know, the Mechathune decks that are running around now, and there's just a ton of different decks that can just kill you in one turn regardless of how much health you have. Whatever you have on the board, it doesn't matter. How much health you have doesn't matter. The cards in your deck don't matter. So I guess Taunt Druid really isn't as good as I thought it was after I thought about it for a little bit. So with that, that covers our Kobolds set. These are a lot of cards we're losing, guys. This is a lot of stuff. So again, I know I've said it a million times, but I am very optimistic about the rotations. Hopefully Blizzard has learned that, you know, making cards like Gul'dan and Valera and Jaina, while they may be fun in the first couple weeks of the game, over the course of 2 years they are very unhealthy because the first player to draw their DK normally wins. And you know, hopefully they tone back the scale of how powerful some of these cards are. Granted, they still cost 10 mana, but you know, it's too much, you know what I mean? So I would love to hear your opinions on this, whether if I'm just going off on a tangent because I'm always upset, or I actually have a point here. So with that, thank you guys for watching. I will catch you in the next video, of course, and happy whatever the hell day it is.